Hi guys, sorry for the couple minutes delay. Welcome to today's stream. Sorry it's a bit late. I know some of you have go to sleep quite early, but this is the only time I can stream, so I'm more than welcome to watch the VODs the next day. So I'm just gonna go through some of the questions that has been floating around in the chat. It would be nice if you don't flood the chat, because if you do, we'll just ban you out, okay? Because the forum is for people to ask questions, and if you have any questions, please don't just say teach me the entire topic. I can't, if your teacher can't teach you the topic in 5 to 6 weeks, or if you're one of my students, if I couldn't do that in 5 to 6 weeks, I can't do that in 1 hour. So give me a specific question please, and then I'll go through them. All right, so I'm gonna start from the very top. So we got two Hadley Thompson, so one of those is an imposter, but it doesn't matter. So he would like to know about mitosis and meiosis. So we got mitosis and meiosis. So this is in genetics variation. So with mitosis and meiosis, you don't necessarily need to draw the diagrams yourself, because we normally provide you the diagrams. It's just too difficult to draw these on your own. Once you're done biology, level 2, level 3 biology, you will actually need to go through them yourself, okay? But the key thing that you need to understand is that mitosis, this is for growth and repair. Like say, for example, every human being started with one single cell, which is a zygote, after the sperm and egg cell combined together. And then we split the cell, split into a multi-trillion cell organism, which is what we are, okay? So how this works is that the key thing is that the daughter cells and the parent cells are exactly the same. So the daughter cells and the parent cells are genetically identical. Cells are genetically identical because they are essentially clones, okay? So what they do is that if you look at, you can just Google some diagrams for mitosis, you can have a look at it. You see the process that you will make one parent cell makes two daughter cells, which are exactly the same. With meiosis, this is for the purpose of sexual reproduction. So this is for sexual reproduction. And you make gametes. So for the gametes that you produce, for every one parent cell, you make 4 gametes. And each gamete is unique. Okay, so they are all unique from each other, and they're all different. And that's because of 2 processes. One's called crossing over. Crossing over is when they line up, when they get pulled apart, they swap bits and pieces of information, and also how these gametes are assorted into the sex cells is completely random, so it's independent assortment. Okay, so that create unique gametes, and then they have half the number of chromosomes. Okay, so that's why you have half of the number of chromosomes compared to a normal cell, because you need half from each parent. That gives you the full set. If you have a full set in each of the gametes, then the offspring will have too many chromosomes, and that's not a good thing. Okay, and what is amino acids and proteins, and how does that relate to answering the question? Okay, so you need to understand, if this is a DNA, double helix structure, which is a genetic information. If I break that down like a small section, let's say this section, this is one gene which codes for one characteristic, okay? And then inside that gene, characteristic. So what that means, how do we make that gene? So if you go even deeper, you look at genes, you see those ATCG base pairings. That's a base sequence that essentially determines what the allele or the gene will look like. And then the ATCG is actually what we call, so that's a base sequence. So the base sequence determines what protein is being made. And then if you're being really specific about amino acids is something that you don't really need to talk about. Amino acids are the the long chain of nucleotide. And what is a nucleotide? Nucleotide is when you have this diagram. You probably would have seen this before. This is a nucleotide. So this is your phosphate. Sorry, this is your sugar. If you done some old exams, you would have seen some questions like this. This is a phosphate. and this is the base, you know, the ATCG stuff. So we have, so this is like the building block of genes and stuff. All right, so if you have a lot of these in one sequence, and that will be your base sequence, and that determines what protein you make, and that will determine what you look like. Okay, so that's that. I'm just gonna go down. Can you teach about ratio? Yes. So one thing that you need to understand for ratio, let's say for example, one of the most popular questions, MgO versus MgCl2. So this is chemistry, essence and basis. So for excellence, you need to be able to do the following things. Okay, so if you look at this MgO, this has a, if you look at the table of ions that you get, this is made of Mg2 plus and O2 minus. If you look at this guy, this is made of Mg2 plus and Cl minus. This is all on your table of ions. Okay, so if you're going for merit, the easiest way you can do it, you just look at the charge. You look at the charge. All right, so this is 2 plus, this is 2 minus. You can just say, I want to, when the ions combine together, they don't want to have an overall charge, or you can just say they want to have you want to create a neutral ionic compound. So what that means, the positive 2 and the negative 2 cancel each other out, and that will give us our neutral ionic compound. That's why the ratio is 1:1. And in this one, you can see the Mg is +2, and then Cl is 1 minus. I need 2 Cl minus to cancel out, to cancel one Mg2 plus. You know, one is -2, one's +2, so it's 2:1 ratio. If you can do this, you got a merit. Okay, if you can explain like that. To get the excellence, you need to be able to do this. So you need to go understand that Mg2 plus. How does the Mg2 plus came from? That means this would have lost 2 electrons. How did the O2 minus came about? Because this would have gained 2 electrons. So you got your Mg atom and your oxygen atom sitting here. So the Mg, this guy, wants to lose 2. So I want to lose 2. And then the oxygen atoms, I want to gain 2. So what's going to happen is that just going to go, all right, sweet. Mg is going to lose the 2 electrons, and then oxygen gains these 2 electrons. So that's why it's 1:1. But in comparison to Mg2 plus and Cl minus, my Mg want to lose 2 electrons, but my chlorine can only gain 1 electron each to form a -1 charge. So you need 2 chlorine atoms to pick up, to gain total of 2 electrons that is lost by magnesium. So that is why the ratio between these is 2:1. So if you do any of these 2 bullet points, because I marked this standard for like 3 to 4 years, if you do either one of this bullet point, that's a merit. If you do both of them comprehensively, that's excellence. Okay. All right, so done that. Teach balanced equations. Hunter, if you're saying screw for acids and bases, now this is something I mentioned in my tutorial videos before as well. If you are struggling to pass acids and bases, I would strongly recommend you to invest your time in the pH colors, the ions concentrations, the rate of reaction. You know what happens when you increase temperature, increase concentration, increase surface area. And the stuff I just did, you know, how things become ions. Here's another thing that I normally do that's normally really easy. I say, for example, why does sodium become +1 charge ions? And this is 11, and then let's do oxygen 16. I say, for example, you know, why do they become ions? Again, this is only looking at achieved, maybe even merit, with minimum explanation. Okay, so ready? So this is your atomic number. So that means for my protons, electrons, I have 11 protons, 11 electrons. Same number. Okay, and then now we look at the electrons. We need to arrange it. Remember the arrangement. You know, first shell takes 2, second shell takes A, third shell can take up to A, but only have 1 left. These 3 numbers should add up to equal to 11. So 281. Next step. All right. So what's going to happen? You know, they want to have a full outer shell. Why do they want to have a full outer shell? You may ask, is that they want to become stable. So what they're going to do In this case, it's going to lose 1 electrons because you have a choice. This is the outer shell. You can either gain 7 or lose 1. Obviously, losing 1 is much easier than gaining 7. You can't possibly gain 7 electrons and you expect that to be stable. Not going to happen. You lose 1, it's going to be 2, 8. Okay, now you do a simple addition. 2 plus 8 equals 10. You got 10 electrons. How many protons do we have before? You have 11 protons. So you have 11 positive protons. You have 10 negative electrons. 11 minus 10. You have 1 more proton than electron. So that's why Na has a positive 1 charge. If you do that in the NCEA exam, not necessarily for your school exam, because for school exams we tend to, but this has all the evidence. Electron arrangement, number of protons, losing electrons, how I got the charge. For NCEA exams, you would have got 4 achieved ticks just in this one question. And you need 8 to pass. You done 50% of it already in a question like this. Surely you can find 5 marks somewhere else. Okay, let's say for example another one, oxygen 16. Oxygen 16, this is 16 protons, 16 electrons. So this has the electron arrangement of 2H6. So what is it going to do? It's going to gain 2 electrons to become stable. So it's going to be 2A8. Add that up. This number equal to 18. I only have 16 protons, 18 electrons. I have 2 more electrons than protons. That's my oxygen is O2 minus. Okay, so balancing equation is only recommended if you are going for excellence. I would not even touch it. If you're going for merit, I wouldn't even touch that. Okay, it's because you need to really get it. I normally spend about 5 to 10 minutes teaching it. If you get it in the 5 to 10 minutes, you won't need to do it anymore. If you don't get in the 5 to 10 minutes, not worthwhile to spend the time unless you're really pushing for the excellence. Okay, all right. So there's a lot of people chatting. I'm just going through all those. Go through those. Can you go over carbon chemistry, Mel? I don't do carbon chemistry on this channel because it's not a core science subject, so I don't think many people want to watch that. Okay, next one. Right, are there any questions here? Yeah, this is normally what happens in a year 11 stream. You're struggling for bio. If you want a quick tip to pass bio, one of the easiest ones to do is the Punnett squares. Punnett squares is normally quite straightforward, as well as the variation. This question always comes up because if you look at the topic is called genetic variation. So what causes variation is sexual reproduction, and then you have mutation. So what is mutation? Mutation is a change in the base sequence, due to the environment, or it could be a mistake that happens during replication, all that sort of stuff. And then you make a new allele. Then you make a new characteristic, and that might be the amazing characteristic that's gonna, God, I can't spell tonight. That's going to be the amazing characteristic that's going to carry you to do really well in the wild. Okay, and then sexual reproduction, you got the meiosis. We talked about that just now, and then you got fertilization, which is completely random. So especially you got siblings. You and your siblings are very similar but very different, because the gametes that fertilize you is going to be very different to the gametes that fertilize them. Okay, so right now, and why is variation good? Because with variation, that means there's a variety of physical characteristics in the population, so that means this increases survival chance. So if, let's say, there's a drought, there's a virus, there's a pandemic going around, if there's a variation in the population, they're bound to be that some of them that will be able to survive and pass on the genes. If you can do these, you're literally looking at 6 to 7 achieved ticks just in this particular picture that we're looking at. If you can nail down the basics, passing level 1 science is definitely doable. Okay, so that's that's fine there. All right. Could you, I think Itachi, is that Shane? I think that's Shane. Hold on. hold up. Oh, someone gave me $3. Oh, thank you for that. Wait, where am I? Aaron, How do you explain relationships between DNA, genes, alleles, mutations, and phenotype? I literally just kind of, well, not gave you that, but people in my class, I gave them like a printout for this. Let me see if I can find it in my personal file. I probably don't have it here. If you bear with me, I can try find it. I can put it here. See, the thing is, I printed it out, but it's on my school laptop, which is broken right now. Okay, anyhow, if you look at any of the old exam questions of DNA, genes, chromosomes, alleles, mutations, and genotype, phenotype, I think that's one of the old exam questions. If you look on my channel, I've gone through every single exam from 2018 to last year. But really quick, verbally, DNA is a whole, this is your entire genetic information. A gene is a small section of the DNA that codes for one characteristic. Okay, so they're different, and then for that one particular characteristic, there are different versions of the same gene, which is going to be called alleles. Like say, again, I don't like using this example, but this is the one that people always understand. Like say, for example, hair color. Again, not very correct scientifically, but if you think about hair color, that's a characteristic. We all have hair, and we all have a color for our hair, but then there are different colors for our hair, so that's because of different alleles. Okay, so I spelled that wrong. And mutation. What's mutation? Mutation is that when you have a change in the base sequence, you make a new allele, and that will result in a phenotype. And what's phenotype? Phenotype is the physical characteristics that you see. All right. And Hunter asks, can go through what we need to achieve for acids and bases, like bare minimum. Trust me, mate. Like the thing I just went through, get that, and then this is the other one. This is literally, remember this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. pH scale. 7, neutral. From 1 to 6, acidic. And from 8 to 14, base. Well, from 7.1 onwards, base. And this side is strong acid, weak acid, weak base, strong base. These two is red, orange, yellow, green. From here to here is, let's say, blue. From here to here is like purple. And then if you're going for the higher important one, like the stronger, like say right now 1 to 2 pH is strong, you have lots of H plus or your OH minus. And then 3 to 4 you have some, you still have more H plus, but not as much. 5 and 6 you only have a little bit more H plus compared to OH minus. At pH 7 you have equal amount. At 8 to 9 to 10 you have more OH minus compared to H plus. And then at 12 to 14 you have a lot more OH minus compared to H plus. Like right now here, if you get one of those questions that keep adding, change color, just chuck that in. All right, you get some points. Get some points here, get some points with the if you can identify the rates of reaction, what is the factor being changed, the acids, the atom stuff that I just did up there, that's like 8 to 9 points, bare minimum, scrape achieved. Okay. All right. How do I balance equation? Okay, so this is for X's only. I'll do it really quick. How do you balance equation? All right, so HCl plus H2CO3. H2CO3, what the heck is that? Not the hydrogen carbonate. Let's do Na2CO3. What does this make? So this is acid plus carbonate. You make salt. How do I figure out salt? It's a metal part, and then the bit that doesn't have the H. So this is salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. Okay, so if you can balance it, if you can write an equation like that, that's merit. To get an excellence, what you need to do here is that you need to look for what I tend to call the special element. Don't look at your O's, don't look at your H's. Look at something like sodium. You should be able to see there are 2 Na here, There's 1 in here, so I need to balance it. I put a 2 here. Once I put a 2 here, can you see now I have got 2 CLs? I need to put a 2 here. So once I put a 2 there, let me just count. I got 2 H's, 2 H's, 2 NAs, 2 NAs, 2 CLs, 2 CLs, 1 C, 1 C, O3, there's O here, there's 2 O's here. Balance, that's excellence. Okay. And for Ella, can you give me some tips for excellence in all science of species? Yeah, like literally what Sajid said, just practice. If you want to do well in science, I would highly recommend you to grind through at least 5 years of past exam papers. Like, that's just how it is. You would have seen every single variation of the excellence question, and you would nail it on the day. And DNA, genes, alleles, I've done that. So I'm just backtracking. Hello, so is this the Punnett square apply for expected ratio for actual ratio? Punnett square apply for expected ratio. Now the thing is, Punnett squares is always the expected ratio. Okay, so it's like saying having a boy and a girl is 50-50, like, because it's, you know, you do your Punnett squares, it's xy, xx, and it's xx, xx, xy, xy, you know. But then, like I said in class, there are plenty of families that I know of that have a lot of girls in the family and very little boys, or a lot of family with a lot of boys but not very little, not many girls. So it's a 50-50. You know, the outcome is not exactly 50-50. Okay. Done that. Send to me as well. Oh, someone's got notes. That's really good. All right. And how do we get the do you get the pH scale? Round, definitely not. Okay, how for ratios done that? All the year 11 students here. Yeah, I spammed the whole school. Hope you guys did well in MCAT today. All right. Are there anything else? I created Google Docs. Hold on, could you brush over writing chemical formula, and it will be given, yes, you will be given table vines. I say, for example, write down the formula of, let's do another equation. For example, if I'm doing, I've already done that one. Let's do nitric acid plus potassium hydroxide, what do I make here? Okay, so nitric acid is HNO3, you just need to know that. For potassium hydroxide, if you look on the periodic table, table finds, potassium is us, hydroxide is us, so this is KOH. Okay, so what do they make? You know, it's always a metal part. You know, nitric acid becomes nitrate, so this is potassium nitrate plus water. Because it's acid plus base, you make salt and water. How do we write potassium nitrate? Potassium is K plus, nitrate is NO3 minus, this turns into K, NO3 plus H2O. Okay, so this one's already balanced. If you write this is a merit. Okay. Alright, so done that. Struggling with bio. Again, I just grind through exam papers. That's the best tip I can give you. Already done that. Done that. Any tips on remembering 3 exams worth 3 exams worth of information for the 3 hours exams? It will take a lot of practice beforehand. So to go into a 3 hours exam, you probably need to have done 15 hours of revision. Okay. Tony's doing a lot of my modding. Wait, I've lost track of where the questions are. Can I explain independent assortment? Independent assortment, now that's like a really difficult concept, you know, to explain, because that's like actually year 12. You can just think about, you know, how these the alleles are lining up in the middle, and then which one goes into which cell is random. You just keep it that way, nice and simple. Okay. Because you actually shouldn't need to explain it. And if you need an explanation, you can just go on to one of the old exams that has a question, just look for it. It's really just literally just a 1-sentence explanation, because it's technically not year 11. Okay, I've done that. Could I explain the difference? Okay, so again, I kind of just independent assortment, because think of this, you got your alleles, you know, that's lining up. So how these things line up and how they get pulled apart is completely random. So this guy could be over here, this guy could be over here, this guy, you know, it's random. That's in a really simple, short way. Not necessarily fully correct, but that's what it is. Okay, and crossing over means like when these things are over there, and then what happens is like, hey, they're too close, and they start to swap bits and pieces of information, and that's crossing over. So that means every single allele is a little bit different. And now I've done the balancing equations. Guys, if you could not flood the chat, that would be good. Just keep it. You guys see each other every day, man. Just don't flood the chat here. Alright, done that. How about inherited traits like curly hair can be passed on versus Mel, what do you mean by the question? How about inherited traits can be passed on versus non-inherited trait like scar from a cut? So what that means is that for anything to be inherited, it has to be able to happen during meiosis, that it occurs in the sex cells, in the gametes. If it occurs in the gametes, that means it can be passed on to the offspring. If there's an environmental factor like a cut, if you go to the gym and work out, doesn't mean your children will be very big and buff when they're born, because that doesn't get carried on. All right, next. No worries. How do you answer excellent question? Level pressure question. Pressure. Therica, what do you mean? Oh, pressure. That's what I was thinking you're talking. Pressure question. So here's finally physics one. So pressure equals force divided by area. So guys, really important. When you're doing pressure question, you need to remember that this force right here, this is weight force, because you're applying pressure, you're putting some weight on it. So this is your weight. How do you figure out weight? Weight is just your mass, which is in kgs. Just multiply this number by 10, and that will give you whatever newtons that is. The area is normally like a rectangular shape. So to find the area, you need to do length times width, and surely you have no problem with that after doing MCAT today. I don't know, all mathematicians for a day or something, you can calculate the area. So this is in meters squared. So you just need to be able to. Now the tricky part is that you need to remember how many feet or how many legs or how many things there are, how many wheels, how many tires, because they may ask you to go, all right, if I'm standing on a snowboard like this, and then this is the area. But if I'm standing on two skis, and they give you each one, like say this ski has an area of 0.1 meters squared, then if you're standing on both skis, then you need to make sure your area is multiplied by 2, because you're standing on two skis. You're distributing your force on two skis. So okay, so the idea, and remember pressures units PA, Pascal, or sometimes you see them as newtons per meter squared, but that's not very common. Pascal is the one that you can just remember. So pressure is how much force is distributed over a certain amount of area. So the more pressure there is, that means the force is, there are lots of different ways how they can ask the questions about pressure, but as long as you understand it's just amount of force distributed over area, and then you should be okay there. Okay. Keep going. Oh, there was a litmus paper question. Where's the litmus paper question? Someone's asking me, how do you, done that. Where did the litmus paper? Oh, there's Marty. As for litmus paper colors, what's the range for litmus paper? If it's acid, they always turn red. If it's red, they go red. So any pH from 1 to 6.9, So if it's red, if it's blue, they turn red. If it's red, they go red. For base, if it's red, if you put in red litmus paper, it will go blue. If you put in blue litmus paper, they'll go blue. Just remember that. B for blue. Okay, that's the easiest way. You don't get none of this. Can you run over crossing over? Okay, so this is like literally this again. So crossing over independence movement, if you look at all the past exam questions, whenever they ask you that, they normally expect you to literally write one line for each. So crossing over, so during meiosis, you may have chromosomes, chromatids, whatever you want to call them, line up like this. And what might happen is that this bit over here and this bit over here, when they get tangled up, this part can go over there and this part can go over here. Okay, so that's crossing over. They swap bits and pieces of information, and these two alleles, after they swap, so they would kind of look like this, and then after they swap, and and these are unique. And how they swap is completely random. And independent assortment is like just how these things are being pulled apart, assorted into the cells, is completely random. Every time it happens, it's different. So you just need to, just a couple lines. And so that's Alicia. So do you think we should have the 1 hour per paper? 1 hour per paper, definitely not. You are not going to need 1 hour to do physics. You are not going to, I think chem should be about 55 to 1 hour if you know what you're doing. Biology should be about 55 to 1 hour. So you shouldn't run out of time, because physics normally doesn't take 1 hour. Hey Tanish, good to see you, man. Hope uni treats you well. And anything else? Can you chuck this onto OneNote or something I can see? Dude, you're looking at it. You can see this right now. Marty, what's semi-conservative replication? That was our old school exam. So semi-conservative replication, it just means DNA replication. So what it means is when the DNA is like this, when they replicate, is that they open themselves up, and then you would add, how this is A, T, C, G stuff. And this, if this is C, this will be G. If this is T, there will be A. This is T, this will be, this will be T. Like say, for example. So what happens here, when they open up, the bases in the blood are gonna come around, and they will bond to them, and they'll form chemical bonds, like following the base pair rule, ATCG. And hopefully you noticed, can you see that the thing I've drawn on the left hand side is exactly the same as the thing I drew on the right hand side. And then what happens is that they will close up. It's like your zip. If you're wearing a jacket to do exam tomorrow, this is what happens. You unzip, you're taking your jacket off. So that's what happening. You're unzipping it, and then when you're done with the replication, you zip it up, and then you have two separate pieces of DNA. Okay. So that's done. Could you explain? Yeah. So I just done that. It's literally just DNA replication. Just a fancy word, semi-conservative. Yeah, just a fancy word. All right, got lost. Track. Where is it? Where did it go? Is it the thing? Is I scroll and I lose my chat. Yes, does pressure need to be around to do significant figures? See, in as level 1 science students, like 2 DP is good enough. 1 DP, 2 DP. There's no set rule for physics. 1 or 2 DP. Do we need to reset? Yes, you need to just bring a calculator. We'll reset it for you. All right. Do we need calculators? Yes. Otherwise, how are you going to do physics? All right. Take note, force may not always be mass times 10. Yeah, because when I talk about force, pressure, this is weight force. Okay, but when you look at cars driving on the road, this is when you look at net force. Net force is using mass times acceleration, so that's how fast your vehicle is going. Okay. Yeah, it's obviously different context. Oh yeah, definitely. All right, is it okay to just say swap piece of information? Yes, just say that. Just say when the chromosomes line up, they will swap bits of genetic information, and therefore creating unique gametes. Done. That's all you need. What does the formula half mv squared? Okay, so Marty, half mv squared is EP. EP is mgh. Ek is half mv squared. So what that's referring to, this is looking at energy conservation. So what that means is that if you drop, like say you can do it right now, if you're holding a pen, drop it, let it go. What's going to happen to it is that your pen's going to free fall, it's going to hit the ground, and it's going to make a sound. So what it's saying is that if, let's just assume all of the energy is conserved, so you know how heavy your pen is, you know how hard, gravity on Earth is 10, you know how high you're holding up the pen, you can measure it, you can calculate EP. And then once you got this number, we're going to say, hey, let's say all of our EP is converted to EK, and which equals to half mv squared. But you already got this number. You know how heavy it is. You know the EK because we got it from the EP. You can just solve V, and that's just math. Okay. Does area equal space times height? Yes. And if it's a triangle, don't forget half it. Alright, next. Half times base times height. Waiting for square. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not from our school, welcome to see our. What you see in our chat is our lovely group of Year 11 boys. Yeah, they do feel like bots, don't they? They're not bad in real life. When's the next level 2 physics? Level 2 chem is, I don't do physics. Level 2 chem probably before the end of the exam, so heading to November. Can I do some guys on C1.5 chemical reactions? Unfortunately, Dashu, I don't do, again, because not every school does chemical reactions, so I'm not going to do that for like 5 people, which is not worthy of my time. I'm sorry. Same with electromagnetism. It's just a small niche. Not many schools do those. Okay. Yeah. How do I? All right. I can time people out. Yay! Look at that. Is the school school exams, especially our school exams are always harder than the NCEA ones. So be warned. Always harder. Okay, can you explain that exam question where you have to link between chromosomes? Dude, I just did it. So chromosomes, DNA, mitosis, meiosis. So you need to understand that chromosomes, DNA, chromosomes is just condensed structure of DNA, and DNA is the entire, is your genetic information. And then during mitosis, you make new cells that have the same DNA as the original cell, and for meiosis, you make gametes which contains half the number of chromosomes, and then they're gonna combine together with the other gender, then make a baby, then that has a full set of chromosomes. Okay. So would you be a supplementary science? Rayon, no. Go ask your supplementary science teacher. The school exams, of course, has a bulk part of the GPA. So are we given a sheet with equations and table of lines? Yes. For all of the physics equations, you will be given all of them. The table of ions and the periodic table will also be given. You'll also be given them in the end of the examinations. Can you go over the benefits of reproducing? Okay, so sexual reproduction, and asexual reproduction. Okay, so let's look at the advantages and disadvantages are literally just the opposite for these two different types. Okay. Oh, that's not enough space. I should have not done that. All right. So the advantage of sexual reproduction, you have variation. That's the biggest advantage that you can have. Variation means there's a higher survival chance of species. Okay, so if there's a drought, if there's virus, like I said, temperature got cooler, colder, hotter, blah, 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 flooding, whatnot, having variation means some of those individuals can survive. Asexual reproduction advantages, this is fast, you know it's predictable, you know exactly what you are going to get, and then this is less time consuming, and then because you don't need to find a partner, and then you also, it's kind of double-crossing, overlapping as fast, and then you also expend less energy. Okay, now the disadvantage is literally the opposite. Okay, so sexual reproduction takes more time, so it's much slower, and then you have to invest in more energy at finding a partner, actually making the gametes, everything. All right, but then you also might lose favorable traits because if you do a Punnett squares, you understand that you can lose, there's a certain percent of chance that you can lose for particular alleles in the offsprings. That can totally happen. And then the biggest disadvantage of asexual reproduction is there's no variation. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know. All right, so what else have I done? On the sheet, already done that. Can you explain genetic variation? Yeah, I kind of just did that, Jess. So you need to just understand with the variation, how is that important to a population? So this is an excellent question. When there's a variation in the population, that means everyone will be slightly different. That means we, at this stage, it may not be an advantage or disadvantage. But if something happens to the environment, if there's a change in the environment, and some of the, and then one particular thing could have happened, and then could be a certain individuals in the population that may have genes or traits that allow them to survive better, longer, and they can have children and pass on the genes. That's essentially it. Okay. Can you give us a E4 exams and coordinate? I wish. Yeah, these guys. How do gametes form? Gametes form from during meiosis. So you have one cell and that will split into 4, and they have half the number of chromosomes. Okay, could you go over an explanation of gamete formation in meiosis? Oh, again, I've done crossing over like literally 5 times now. So crossing over, so during meiosis, you start with one cell. Like I said, right now you have the 4 chromosomes in here. Once you've done the lining up, they'll split twice. This part get pulled apart. They get pulled apart. I'm not gonna. So they actually duplicate, and then you get this. They duplicate into something like this. You pull them apart. So you got one in here, and then you got one in here, and what's going to happen is that they're going to get pulled apart again. I don't draw the best diagrams, or the teachers or the students in my class knows. And what's going to happen here is that you're going to have 2, this will split into 2, there you go. So you start with one cell with 4 chromosomes, and then you made 4 cells with 2 chromosomes. Okay. Now what's going to happen? That looks like a Z face. Now what's going to happen is that when these guys line up in the middle, like this, what's going to happen is that they can switch bits of pieces of genetic information, crossing over, swapping information, and that creates unique gametes. Okay. Right. Hamish, in order to determine the depth of a well, stones drop into the well and the time taken is measured. It's found that the sound is around 5 seconds. Oh my god. Okay. Hold up. Hunter. Dude, what the hell? There's no need for the donation, man. Especially come to our school, what the heck. Alright, where's the question gone? Alright, so Hamish was saying, in order to determine the depth of a well, a stone drop into the well, the time taken of the drop is measured. It's found that the sound, it's so easy. It takes 5 seconds. It's 340 meters per second. So just multiply them together. That's how deep the well is. But that well is 1,500 meters deep. What kind of well are we dealing with? That doesn't sound like a really realistic situation. Yeah. And Marty, why can alleles not be distributed as expected? Because of this every event is independent. Okay, so what it means, same thing. You know how 50-50 to get a head or tail from tossing a coin? If you toss a coin 10 times, you're not going to get 5 heads and 5 tails. I will tell you that right now. Okay, so that's not distributed as expected because the sample size is too small. Sample size is too small. If you do that 1,000,000 times, you're most likely going to get close enough 500,000 heads, 500,000 tails. Okay. All right, next bit for rate of reaction. Wait, did I miss a question? Yes, I did miss a question. Can you help us with an explanation to meiosis process that cause variation amongst gametes? They're crossing over and independent assortment. There you go. Test cross, Sujan, test cross. So you know how if you have, like say, big A, and then another individual that look exactly the same, that's big A, small a, how do I figure out, you know, which one's purebred? This is purebred, but how do I know that? So this is the small a, this recessive allele is a hidden gene, hidden allele, I can't see that. So how do you distinguish it? When you do test cross, you always cross it with the homozygous recessive, always, because with the homozygous recessive, it looks different to these two individuals that we got on there. And once you've done the test cross, you will know that if you have the hidden genetic information, there will be 50% chance that you will get half of the population to look exactly different than what you had before. But if you had purebred organism, then there's 100% chance that all of them will be heterozygous. Okay, so remember that. All right. Where did I lose? Hold on. I've done that. My little cousin. Nice one. Yeah, done that. Can I go over test crossing? Done that. What other directional forces and objects is on the slope? Doesn't matter if you have object on slope, like say something like this, there's always gravity or weight, there's always support, there's friction. Well, actually in this case, if it's sliding down, then that's probably, well, what are we talking about? Is the thing moving or is it not moving? Because normally we don't, on the slope is a little bit different because you're looking at momentum, if it's already moving, or, you know, that's a little bit nasty. But if you think about, if you're pulling it upwards, then that could be the pull, and this is friction. If it's sliding down, then there's a different story. So it could be different things. Yellow bucket hat. So for rate of reaction, temperature equation, what's the difference between the two ways that increases rate? Okay, so you need to understand when you increase temperature, so this is rate of reaction. When you, acids and bases, if you increase temperature, it does two things. First, there's more heat energy. Okay, there's more heat energy, and that means there's higher kinetic energy. Okay, so that means the particles will move around faster. So that means they collide more often. Okay, so this is one of the ways of, one of the first two things that it does when you increase the temperature. The other thing is because there's more, I could have just done here, because there's more heat energy, that means there is now a higher chance. You know how they must collide with sufficient amount of energy? Now because they're colliding, because there's more energy, that means they're colliding with more energy. They are colliding with more energy. That means there is a higher proportion of these collisions to have sufficient, high proportion of collision will collide, will have sufficient amount of energy that would make this reaction work. Okay, so this thing is twofold, and you must do both if you want the excellence. Okay, so you need to understand they collide more often, and then higher proportion collide with more energy. Therefore, there's a higher frequency of collision or higher number of collision per unit time, therefore higher rate of reaction. Okay. Next one, where did I go now? Yes, I got that. This one, yep, thank you. I checked if you want to derive essence rate alone. Yeah, yep, so that makes it would have not been, yep. I'm just saying, I mark NCEA exams. I've done this for how many years now? Too many years. You know, I know how we go with marking exams. It's okay. If you guys need to go sleep, just go sleep. It's totally fine. Just watch it tomorrow morning before your exam. No big deal. Okay, 5 seconds of time for this. Oh, Hamish, go away. Alright, the speed. Yeah. Can you rank the level 2 externals in order of difficulty? It depends. How good are you with organic? People always find organic the hardest, structure and bonding being the easiest. an object rolling down the slope. See, if it's rolling down the slope, that will be really, really interesting, because technically, why is it rolling down? Because of gravity, because of the slope. That's not level 1, that's heading to level 2, mate, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Alright. Hi, what are you going to do? When are you going through level 2? I did level 2 yesterday, so today's level 1. So feel free to look at the stream that I did for yesterday. The vase is on the channel. Question 3, 2017. Mink, I don't have my school laptop. My laptop broke, so you need to send me the question, but I don't have my laptop with me. When you have got questions that about observation from a base, what do you do? Write the observation with an acid. Color change. Yellow, Mr. Yellow Bucket Hats. So if you have a base, you will turn litmus paper blue. If it's red, it will go blue. If it's blue, it stays blue. If it's an acid, if it's red, it will stay red. If it's blue, it will turn. If it's a blue litmus paper, it will turn red. Okay, that's it. And Tony, like, to be honest, man, organic, yeah, it's literally, it's a love-or-hate relationship. Buoyancy, Marty, we definitely don't do buoyancy. We just did that for P1.1. Yeah. Can I go through terminal velocity? Yes, I can. Finally, it's a good question. So if you jump down out of a perfectly fine airplane and do parachuting, so you jumped out, and then you would go through different stages. Okay, so if you jump, this is you jumped out of the plane, and you're free falling. So at the beginning, you will accelerate. And why would you accelerate? Because the force acting down is greater than friction. So you accelerate. All right. So so your weight force is greater than resistance. So you accelerate. And after a little while, you will reach terminal velocity. Okay. So it depends on what your shape, your weight, and stuff. You will reach terminal velocity because the weight and then the gravity, the resistance would have been perfectly equal and opposite. And then you pull open your parachute. And you slow down. Why is that? Because you have increased the resistance, and then you slow down. And then after a little while, you will reach a constant speed again. Now, note, this is not. It will really help if you actually parachuted before. I've done it, so I can tell you how it feels. If you pull the chute, you get dragged up, but then over time, once after a little while, you're gonna go at a constant speed, because the resistance and then the gravity is going to be the same again. Okay, make sure you can do those the diagrams. Hunter, what's the base bare minimums I need to do? I told you, man. Just do the atom forming ions, do the pH thing, colors. You need to understand increasing concentration, increased rate of reaction. Write that down. Increasing surface area, increased rate of reaction. Write that down. You need to just identify the factor that's changing concentration, not concentration, increasing the factors of the rate of reaction. Okay. If you fail, just blame your science teacher. Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's unlucky, man. If that's the case, Hunter, I probably wouldn't worry about it for the school exams, because, like, trust me, if you put your mind to it, grind it out, like, do the passing exams. If you get stuck, have a look at my videos, then you should be okay. Any tips for level 2 chem? Oh my god, Stacy, you need to go to sleep. That's a tip I can give you. Go sleep, and then you do well tomorrow. Do we need to draw atomic structures? Yes, you might need to be able to. Draw they may give you to label. And, inside here, this is your protons, this is your neutrons, and they may give you to do this. Do your 2, 8, I can't be bothered drawing all those. You need to go, hey, this is my electrons, this is my electron shell, you know, labeling, this is like a free achieved. So there you go, Hunter, another achieved question for you. Will they test about drag and thrust and gravity? Of course they would. What's a bare minimum to pass physics? Believe it or not, I marked mechanics last year for the end of the exam. I kid you not, you literally get points for writing down the correct equation. And I'm pretty sure you don't get that for the school exams. That's just too bad. You know, it couldn't be any lower. So just passing physics, literally you look at the question, find the formula you need to use, hunt for the numbers for the letters. There should be one that you don't know, solve that, put the units in, then you pass, pretty much. Just do that for plenty of questions and you would have passed. Yeah. Any other questions, people? I've noticed that quite a few people have left, so that was just totally fine because 10:30, you know. To choose physics next year, do you need a merit in the external? Preferably, like I said before, if you can't do physics level 1, if you can't do mechanics level 1 at a merit level, you know, not just scrape through 14, 15 points. You really need a decent grade. You can get into physics, but you know you're gonna struggle otherwise. Hold up. So here's the slope question. Okay, I'll copy the image. Thank you for the Discord image. My Discord wasn't, you know, so here we are. Alright, let's have a look at this. Alright, so YouTube. Sorry, I have so many. Yeah, I got oh god, all this Discord chats, because I got level 2 science, level 2 chem and level 1 science exam tomorrow. Alright, well, look at this. What is this crap? Let's have a look. Some amount of a cat and the rat reach the ground below the tree. What are they doing? The cat stopped, but the rat rose down with grass. And then, oh god, while the rat is rolling down, it gradually increases speed and the average acceleration. Calculate average unbalanced force. Explain why the rat accelerated down the slope. Okay, so that's because the rat has a rolling motion. You know, this is rolling, and then the force over here would have been friction. And I will still label, yeah, why does it, I mean, you can talk about gravity and support in this case, but I don't think it's appropriate because it's on the angular on the angular slope. So you just need to talk about why does it accelerate, because this force is bigger than friction, and that's why it accelerate. And you can, you know, why there is acceleration in terms of force acting on it, because of, in this case, must be gravity. Because if you're on the slope, you are, you know, if you think about the rat over here, why does it roll down? Because it's running down, then the gravity is gonna start dragging it downwards. Yeah, so this is a typical BDSC school exam question. Oh god, that's I think it's in simple terms. That's how I would interpret it. Because I'm definitely not a physics teacher. But from my perspective, that's probably what I will go with. Okay, so yeah. Oh god, yes, I'm really sure. I know I need better mods, of course. Okay, so you can have a look at that. Which ones have it done? Do we need to draw? Yeah, already done that. Discord, yeah, I failed physics. If you fail physics, if I do really good in mechanics, can you get into it? Of course. Is there a terminal velocity going upwards? like flying, or is it only down? Alicia, if you're going up, yes, that is when you can't go. It's the same thing. Like if you put yourself in a rocket, space shuttle with a big ass rocket, and you launch yourself into space. There's only a certain speed that you can get up to. Yeah, I'm looking at that answer schedules. It's really, it's oh god, it's really that's what I mean. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if you look at that, I'm just gonna show it here. This is why I don't like some of the school exam questions, because you will never ever get a question like this in the exam at the end of the year, because I'll guarantee you 90% of the nation will fail this if they did that. Okay, so this is what I mean. Like, you get an angle. So technically this force is a combination of gravity and support. So yeah, I personally wouldn't worry too much about this, man. It's just, yeah. Oh god, I just look at this question and I really think that sometimes we do make the questions a little bit too hard for the school exams, and that could be demotivating in a way. But I can assure you that this end of year NCEA exams is much easier. But try your hardest anyway. But this question, I would assume this would be from a few years ago, because if I see this question, I will probably complain as a teacher, as to whoever wrote the exam, because this might be a little bit too much. All right, what's the next one? Do we need to know slope question? Done that. SCS, possibly. The cat and mouse. Yeah, that was insane. Nice question. Interesting context. Yeah. Any common BDSC school exam questions? You have all of them. Just have a look. Okay. What else have we got? Yeah. Question about how to calculate the velocity when it was falling, like halfway through the distance as fall. Okay, so if you have a question about, so something that's falling halfway, let's say if I have a book here on the shelf, and the shelf broke and it's falling down. Let's say from here to the ground, from here to here is 2 meters, all right? And then they ask you can calculate when it's falling, like halfway through the distance. It's pretty straightforward. Like, say if halfway will be 1 meter, right? If it's falling 1 meter, what speed would it have? Well, if you think about it, how heavy the book is. Let's just say the book is 1 kg, just to make it easier. The book is 1 kg. So that means at the top 2 meters, I would have calculate the EP equals mgh, so 1 times 10 times 2. So it will have 20 joules of energy at the very top. When it get to 1 meter, can you see that if you calculate, so when the book gets to here, how much EP does it have when it gets here? So it will be 1 times 10 times 1, because the height is now 1 meter. So that's 10 joules. I had 20 joules, now it's 10 joules. Where did the 10 go? So if you 20 minus 10, where does this 10 joule go? This 10 joules would have turned into EK. Okay, so what, how do we calculate EK? EK equals half mv squared, so which equals to 10. So that means mv squared equals to 20, and we know m is 1, so 1v squared equals 20. So v squared equals 20. V equals the square root of 20, which is like 4 point something. So this is your speed. Okay, run that in your calculator. What do you mean, Tony? Level 2? does a question appear where it says need to calculate the gravitational force? How do you calculate it? Mass times gravity. Gravitational force. Mass times 10. Can you please do the question I sent? Oh, and then he sent me a question on Discord. Yes, he did. Let's open this. Copy it. Huntington disease. Okay, so it's saying, oh yeah, it's the same thing, man. I literally print out the answers for you. I did this just now as well. So this question again is looking at what's DNA. DNA is you need to use this disease as an example. Okay, so you need to understand DNA contains all of the genetic information, whereas a gene is a section of the DNA that codes for one characteristic. In this case, do you have Huntington disease or not? So there are two different versions of the same gene, which is called two alleles. The recessive allele is not affected by disease, and then the capital allele, the dominant allele, is affected by the Huntington disease. So how's this disease could have been occurred? Now I don't see the whole question, but I think this could have been caused by mutation. So you could say a mutation is a change in the base sequence that created the Huntington disease alleles, and that means this particular allele will now be in the genotypes, and that will be displayed physically in the phenotype. Okay. When you discussing concentration, do you need to use terms like, yes, Alicia, for that excellence bit, you definitely need to. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I knew that slope diagram is level 2 physics. It just doesn't look right, man. Like everything, because if you think about it, if it's on an angle, you're combining multiple forces together when the thing's sliding down. So it's definitely not nice. Anyone else sending me stuff? How do you solve this? So to somebody, so I'll put the question on here, copy image, paste image. Right, use the conservation energy to show the gumboot. Okay, now I can't do this question, Marty, because I don't have all the clues. So straight away, this is part 2. I don't know how heavy the gumboot is. Yeah, I don't know how heavy the gumboot is, so I can't do this question. Oh, can I do this question? No. I can't do this. So you need to tell me how heavy it is. Okay, I need the mass of the gumboot. Give me mass. Give me mass. Mass of gumboot. Thank you very much. So the thing with physics questions is that most of it is connected together. Okay, so you need to use some of the stuff together. All right. So I mean, if you look at this question, what you can think about is that it could have fallen from a height in order to touch the ground. So you know this is typically EP equals EK. So half mv squared, oh, actually I should put it the other way around. So this means mgh equals, well actually, I don't need the gumboot. I don't need the mass. No, I don't need the mass. Half mv squared, because we can cancel the mass. One's on the left, one's on the right. No, never mind, don't need to cancel it. You just look at the equation this way. We know g is 10. What's height? You show from a height discussed with justification. So this is 11.25. Well, we don't know this. Let's say h. We don't know this. Half times v squared, 15 squared, which is half of 175. 10 times h equals that. Excuse me, h will equal to. No, don't need the mass, because if you know if you know mathematics. Wait, did I do this right? Yeah, I can't. Height is Wait, did I do this right? Half mv squared. Yeah, I did this right. 15 squared. Unless 15 squared is not 175. It's 225. I was gonna say 225 times divided by 2. So you will know if you solve this, h equals 11.25. Done. Okay. Don't need the mass. We don't need it because we can solve it by understanding EP equals EK. So whenever you see this conservation of energy, EP equals EK. Okay, so that means these two formulas are the same and you can just cancel it out. If it's on the left hand side or on the right hand side, you can just delete them. Base times height equals quadratic. What do you guys, what is this? Okay, any more questions? Hopefully that helped you there, Marty. Yeah, it's a nice question. So if you have any questions, chuck in the chat. Just, you know, ignore the boys having a chat in the, you know, in the comment section, in the chat section, because that's what they do. Yeah. But anyhow, been doing this for like an hour and 10 minutes. If you get cold during the school exam, you just don't sit it. Iron ratios, I did that, Sujan. If you, you can watch the VOD a little bit later. I definitely did that. Okay. Alright, so you guys, I'm not gonna keep you guys here. Emma, do we need to know Newton's laws? Not the full definition, to be honest. I think it'll be good to know them. Newton's first law, you know, second law, third law, and just have because those laws are actually demonstrated using those equations. Okay, like say for every force is the equal opposite reaction force, and then F equals ma, net force, and then, you know, yeah, you can look it up online, but it's all demonstrated in the equations. Okay. Okie dokie. So I think that's what I would do for now. I'm not getting any more questions from anyone else. Yeah, so yeah, all the best with the exams tomorrow. Be a minimum to pass bio. Get 9 points. That's how you pass bio. 9 points. Get 9 points out of 24, and then you will pass. How do you get 9 points? Draw some Punnett squares correctly. Answer the variation question. Give us some correct definitions here and there. 9 points. Easy peasy. Alright. That's us for tonight, guys. All the best for tomorrow for people from my school. But, you know, if you don't do so well, it's okay. Don't, you know, keep your heads high, but you need to start studying. Like, it just has to happen sooner than later. Alright, guys. All the best. Study hard for tomorrow. Don't sleep too late. And all the best. Cheers, guys.